welcome to the Diversity Makes Us Better virtual panel. DI initiatives in corporate America have become top of mind for many HR leaders and company executives, but really they should be at the forefront of all marketing and PR efforts because they affect the way consumer perceive brands. In honor of celebrating Diversity Month, we'll have a discussion on multicultural marketing challenges and opportunities for marketing leaders and CMOs. So thank you all for joining us. My name's Amanda Ma. I'm the founder and CEO of Innovate Marketing Group, an event experience agency based in Los Angeles. We do mostly corporate events and large community events, and we specialize in DI events as well and helping fuel brands to change lives for the better. Before we begin, I know usually our audience have questions, so we will be taking questions at the end of the session. There will be a Q&A, so don't worry. Please make sure you prompt that into the comment box, and our team will make sure to funnel those questions to us. All right? And before we get started, I just want to introduce our amazing panel. It was very intentional how we put this panel together. They are all amazing rock star women leaders here. So I'm going to start with Sandra Lee. She's the CEO of ES Advertising, Inc., Fortune 500 multicultural marketing expert and diversity and inclusion advocate. Dana C. Arnett, she's the CEO of Wicked Bionics, multicultural marketing and advertising expert, DEI advocate, author, and podcaster. And then last but not least, Angelica Urquijo, Bilingual CEO of the ImageN Group, Inc., multicultural marketing and social impact and communication strategist. And really, when we're looking at panel, we wanted someone who's an expert in multicultural marketing, and we also wanted DEI advocates, and everybody here checks all those boxes, and of course, good looking. So that's why they were all selected. Thank you for joining us. And then, before, I would love to ask each of the panelists just do a quick little intro about themselves. So let's start with Sandra.
Hello, everybody. I can't see everybody through the screen, but I'm Sandra Lee, founder of ES Advertising. We've been in business for 24 years, just focusing on multicultural markets. And I'm so happy to be here with other panelists.
Great. Dana?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Arnett, and thank you for the introduction, Amanda, and thank you for inviting me to be here today. I think Wicked Bionics, we're in our 9th year, just turned into our 9th year in multicultural marketing and advertising. We're in Los Angeles, and we connect millions of diverse consumers to products and services that really change their lives. And we work with government agencies and large corporations.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Angelica.
Hello, great to be here. I'm Angelica Urquijo, or Angelica Urquijo. So that kind of gives you an insight to what our specialty is. I'm the founder and the CEO of the ImageN Group. We focus on developing inclusive marketing communication strategies that help our clients, many of them government, corporate, nonprofit, and the education sector, reach our diverse audience. In particular, our sweet spot is reaching the Hispanic market here in the LA area, but we work also with partners across the country. So great to be here.
Thank you all. Thanks for making time being here. All right. So, my first question is, what is multicultural marketing and how to do it right? I think there's so many different ways people perceive this. So I'll start with Angelica this time.
In the past, when you would hear the word multicultural, you'll say, okay, there's a segment of the population we're going to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe an advertiser was going to say, we're going to put maybe 5-10% of our budget into multicultural. Well, you know what? Multicultural is now the new norm today. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if many people know, but in 2020, 17 and under, that age group is multicultural. That means that they make up our Black, LGBT, Latino, Asian population. So that means that a company is looking at it from the beginning when they're looking at their strategy as, how is it impacting? How are we going to connect with our communities that we're trying to attract, our audience? So what does the leadership look like? What are our employees? What are our focus groups that are our internal employees? What does our marketing material look like? Does it resonate? Does it look like our community? All of that is multicultural, is really a reflection of who your consumer is, who the audience is. It's today's norm. We are now multicultural.
Yeah, agreed.
100%. Dana, how about you? What's your input on that?
I so agree. It is looking internally. We very intentionally have created a multicultural marketing agency internally as well as externally, because it just makes us better at what we do. But when you look at things like the buying power, I think I wrote it down, of Hispanic Americans right now is like $2 trillion, and Black African Americans is like 1.6 trillion. And you look at that and you're like, we have to reach, brands must reach those segments and have very specialized marketing for them, because number one, because it's inclusive, right? It's a way to help, our kind of, my personal goal about this is to make sure that all people feel welcome and included and not left out. So I think when, you take a personal track like that for a corporation, you really look at how can we help all people feel included internally and externally. I think it can make a great, make great strides in advancing multicultural.
Yeah. How about you, Sandra?
Yeah, multicultural marketing has been around for a long time, but recently, there's DEI, being inclusive, and we just had a, informal chat right before this webinar that, just putting out like different race pictures on your brochure, that is not multicultural marketing. Angelica, maybe you want to add more to this, but what's the term that you used?
It's interesting. I love all social media, but especially LinkedIn. I know that my contacts always post something that's interesting. And just before we got on here, I saw an article that was shared by one of my colleagues. They use the term diversity dishonesty. And it really rung a bell, because I think many of you listening, watching, either are an employee. I'm hoping you're not the marketing manager or the executive for a corporation. These are companies that want to be diverse when it comes to public facing, right? It's a show, it's an act. Mm-hmm. But how about when you look internally? What of your board of your directors, your executive suite? Did you just start an initiative because of bashing of our Asian communities or our African American counterparts? That's dishonesty. You're just doing it because you want to appear like you're for diversity. So there's more to it than just checking off a box and saying, oh, our website's diverse, right? We have one diversity officer we just hired. That does not mean you are embracing diversity. So
what I think
the nerve for me.
I know. I think for all of us, we could talk about that. But also one of the things, I go to a lot of events, WeBank and NGLCC conferences, and I think meeting all the supplier diversity managers and seeing where they are in their process within their companies, places like Chevron or Truist, or and really building out that supplier diversity department. So it is exactly the opposite of what you're saying, that it is really bringing in vendors like ourselves that are diverse as women and culturally diverse, and seeing that grow and watching them there. It's a business for them within their business. And some people are brand new on the chain. The first supplier diversity manager has just been hired and they're trying to build it out, but that's, I think, this exciting part of the other side of it when it is working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no, go ahead, Sandra.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to add that it's not just use of, different people on your brochures, websites, TV commercials, but it's really about understanding your target audience and really learning about their, cultural experience and having a targeted strategy in place for them.
Yeah, because every culture, there's a cadence to it, right? But like not everybody understand. But once you understand that, it's going to be that much more successful in terms of how they roll it out. And I always think when it comes to multicultural or DI, it has to be tied to like performance and measurement, not just like, okay, we are DI friendly or we want to do this, right? But if you tie in and also having leadership bought in from the high level. So now there's accountability,
There was something I just want to interject this that about Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light that was done. I think it was, I don't know if it was during the Super Bowl. Anyhow, they released a campaign using a transgender influencer, and it was a huge backlash this year. And when the marketing woman was put into place and got the job, she was head of marketing. She really said she wanted to advance the company, right? Advance the diversity within the company, just showing that they were more modern and all that stuff. And then they launched with, a transgender influencer, and it it really, I was looking at some of the things. There were a lot of celebrities and a lot of people that it was not okay for them. It was too far of a leap, but I also thought if I'm not saying that I'm certainly smarter than the marketing people for Anheuser-Busch, but if looking at who their audience was, males, the middle of the country traditionally, that was a big leap to go into transgender. So it was just maybe something that was before its time.
Exactly. Timing is definitely important. Sometimes you have to do it in kind of like step by step,
right?
Versus this like huge leap.
And that's why it's so key to look in with, if you are one of these companies or a government agency that has a diverse pool, those employee resource groups are there not just because it's a nice to have. Oftentimes you could look at that as an informal focus group, right? They could be letting you know as, that's not really going to connect. Nice idea, but maybe we need to roll it out. Or even knowing differences within our Asian community, Latino community. Somebody might say, oh, they've got a Latino last name, right? They look Latino, whatever that's supposed to be. But even with Latinos, we have people that are from Mexico, from South America, from Central America, Cubans, depending what part of the country. And just because a person has a last name that is Latino doesn't make them the multicultural person that you need for your organization. So you might not have it within the company, but you can reach out to smaller corporations, some of the businesses that are here, freelancers to help a company augment their skill set.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue to my next question. How does DI play into multicultural marketing? I think a lot of you guys have experience in this field. So let's go with Dana first.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because it's all, multicultural is cultural, LGBTQ, whatever it might be, ethnic, different types of groups that might be separate from a general group. And I think, diversity is really showing variety, right? A variety of people. I went to Cornell and I really wanted to learn more how best practices around DEI. And I got a certification last year, and just to learn more about what diversity in the workplace for, us as a company, but also for, in looking at clients and that difference between, you can have people from different cultures, but if you're not allowing them to speak and to participate and to have a voice of their own, I think that doesn't matter what color the people are that are in your organization. Everybody has to be brought to the table, be allowed to have a space at the table to be able to share their thoughts. And I think that, what I learned too is, that comes down to good management, right? Good management, being educated on how to allow diversity to grow and flourish within a company. So I find it really fascinating, but it's bigger than I ever thought it was, honestly, when it gets into, the corporate or government space.
Yeah. Sandra, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, DEI and multicultural marketing, those two terms get mixed up really often these days. People think it's the same thing, but really it's two different topics. DEI is about an internal effort, like Dana pointed out. It takes like an army to get it done right. And multicultural marketing is really external effort, I think, to outreach to the multicultural audience of our nation. And a lot of times the corporations think, hey, we're doing one thing, so we're doing it right, but that's not correct. They should be having two initiatives at all times. It's a must to have both DEI and multicultural marketing at the same time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise it'll be corporate dishonesty, right?
Diversity dishonesty.
Diversity dishonesty. Corporates, but it could be in the government sector too, right? When they might say, oh, like for instance, Dana, that probably comes into play when they say, oh, we already have. Dana and I both do work as well for government in the government sector or corporate. They might say, we already have someone we're working with. Well, if you really are looking at diversifying your supplier pool, then maybe, break up those contracts into smaller contracts so you get an opportunity to work with, Dana's company or my company. But we're here. I know it's a scary thing. It's something that you might not be comfortable with, but that's why we're here. That's why agencies like Sandra, Dana, myself, and Amanda are there to work with you and your team internally to help you understand. And when you have some questions that we can help you guide you through the process. But more than anything, like Sandra said, is making sure your internal team feels valued and that they matter, because they are key to your success as a corporation or as a government agency.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I think, just not too long ago, a lot of companies worry about retention because everybody is like the silent resignation, right? People are just not showing up to work. So, I mean, then definitely you want to think of that. That's a huge business success and relevancy. And whenever you have, there's so many statistics out there to replace someone, it costs way more.
Right.
Yeah.
Training. Right. Training.
Yes. Yeah. So, Angelica, I'm going to pose this question to you to start with. What are the top challenges marketing leaders and CMO face when tapping into multicultural marketing currently?
Well, one would be if it is somebody new to a role and maybe they have had experience in the past and been very successful in leading multicultural efforts, but maybe the company that they joined maybe doesn't have a whole lot of experience in that space. So if it's only one person who's a diversity or multicultural champion, it's going to be really difficult for that one person. They're going to have to start convincing everybody internally. So that's one of the biggest challenges if they're entering a space that hasn't become the norm. Second, I think, is the fight for the dollars. There shouldn't be a fight for dollars. Why are you still giving multicultural 5 to 10%? Remember when I started off the conversation saying there's no longer multicultural. What are the stats that I pulled up earlier that said by this year, 35 and under will be the majority multicultural, right? Mm-hmm. So by 2028, 50 year and under, those of us that are 50 and under, that's going to make up the multicultural. So you really can't no longer say, okay, there's my bucket of multicultural.
Right.
Dollars is basically a biggest hindrance because those that are the decision makers deciding where they're going to, whether it be the chief financial officer or the CEO, where the money's going to go. So without dollars, you really can't move the needle.
Yeah.
Right. I think too, one of the it is so much about money, right? And diversity of spend. And I think one of the challenges, sorry, I was just going to start to answer the question too. Is that okay?
Yes. No, perfect.
Okay. Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that faces CMOs too, and marketers is, creating messaging that connects, right? Because it is, I think Sandra mentioned it earlier, it's about cultural nuances. It's about knowing, being sensitive to each particular group because everybody is different. Thank God. Mm-hmm. And the kind of, whitewashed marketing doesn't work. We all know that, I think, as marketers. But, we always say, my business partner, Carlos, always talks about, really looking at it from outside the building, right? Who is the receiver and what is that experience like for them? Not what we think would, wow, that's a good looking campaign or that's a great tagline or something, but like, how is it going to be received? And, to be effective as a marketer, our job is to create that understanding and that connection, right? Our job is to do that. And I think, to Angelica's earlier point, that is why not every agency, not every corporation or government agency can have an internal marketing agency that can do it all. And that was your point, I think, Angelica, which was hiring people with specialties will make it's budgetarily easier and cheaper because we're not your overhead, but also because we have that expertise. It's where we live and where we're all comfortable mm-hmm. and we have success. So
yeah, definitely. I love the example you shared with me a while back, Dana, about, is it the detergent brand, the name?
Oh, Kmart.
Yes, can you share that example, please?
Oh, sure. I think it is it was appalling when I learned it because I wasn't aware of it when it happened. But Kmart was launching a new campaign, and it looks like from the imagery, it looked like a beautiful patio, and there were patio furniture. It was very pretty blues and stuff, and it was a campaign they wanted to reach yoga moms. Right. So their campaign at the headline said, when they launched big, said, Namaste. Take on namaste, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I guess in the Spanish culture, in Spanish language, that actually meant to suck it. And namaste, I think that's how you pronounce it, Angelica. And it's to suck it. And so what happened was the backlash of that. And this is where my business partner and I just go, how did that happen? Was there not one Hispanic person on staff that they asked, hey, what do you think that this means? Because what ended up happening was their consumer customers, 50% of them were Hispanic, right? So like that fumble, that's a fumble, right? And the backlash was long and deep, and you can Google it. And I thought, and that, again, that's cultural sensitivity and that understanding. Was there an agency that was involved? Was it internal? Who didn't ask the right question? But so those kinds of things, I think, what makes all of us cringe, right?
I'll take it one step further, even when you look at the Hispanic market, again, because that's our sweet spot. That's what we know. Why it's so important to have, so we're on the West Coast. For us, mainly here, it's going to be Mexicans, Central Americans. You're talking about back east, most likely Dominicans, if you're in like the New York area, Cubans in Florida. But a simple word like backpack in English, right? Mochila. My family is from Mexico. In a different Spanish-speaking country, that word is actually derogatory. So it's really important to even dissect it even further, understanding who your audience is that you're going to be talking to, because a simple word, right? Don't use Google Translate, or even a person who might be from South America. And it's your audience here in LA is mainly Central Americans and Mexican. There's even that much sensitivity and being very deliberate about who your audience is.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that is that, with the whole DEI initiative with the corporations going on, just to show that they're doing it, I see a lot of brands using more translation companies more with their general market agencies, just putting out creative messaging out there, which sounds really ridiculous. So I just want to reinforce that you can't just rely on the general market agency and thinking that translation companies will make it happen. You have to have the right partner, like us, three of us,
Right.
experts in what we do. Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
here's
funny.
the reason
Looking
why
at material,
agencies
sorry.
like you guys,
All three of us we're so excited.
yes. Go ahead, Dana. Go ahead.
What I was going to say was it's funny because we're doing a human trafficking project for Los Angeles County right now. And just today we had the English translation. We're going to send it off for transcription in Spanish. But as we know, like what we all just said, word for word is not the same. So what happens is we have that, but then my business partner is Hispanic, so he reads it. Then we send it to the client's teams, and they read it to make sure, because it's never word for word. And I think that's the fumble as well. Use a translation company; they do it, and we're good to go. That is not the way it works.
Yeah, yeah. And consumer expect more, right? And that's why agencies like you guys exist. Because there is a need out there, and then I can say, like, when we see the ad, it's just different, right? Because versus like a general marketing ad, there is a huge difference.
Right.
And I'm seeing the LinkedIn chat, so people are making great comments. They say consumers expect more than a show of multicultural marketing through ads. Another person commented, say, thank you, Dana. What is the receiver looking at? As a consumer, I see your ads, and I want to also look at your leadership makeup to see if you're really walking the talk.
Especially young people. They want the Gen Z. They want to know that is, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And then, yes, and they agree about the corporate dishonesty. So, yeah. Well, what is a good example of brands who got multicultural marketing right? And possibly even wrong, but let's talk about some ones that did get it right, so we could put it into perspective for our audience. Dana, you want to go first?
Oh, did you call me?
Dana, you want to go?
Oh, Dana.
Go ahead, Sandra. Yes.
I was going to say, I've been so focused on looking at like how we can't repeat the behavior of the past that all I can say is when we're researching people that we might want to work with, corporations, we go in and we Google or YouTube and we look at what are their ads looking like? Are there different faces in them, right? Are there different cultures in them? So because we figure if they're not already advertising, then we look at who the brand is. We look at who their leadership is, as was said. And we see, it's all white or all male or whatever it might be. Our little business is not going to overcome that for them. So we usually move on because that is a train, an experience that we can't take on for them. So yes. So I was looking at Bank of America recently, and they have done a beautiful job with multicultural, but I think Angelica has a good story.
So I think what I recall, and I'll say it's one of the blue, so you can figure out which one of the two blue health insurance companies I'm talking about. But remember when I said earlier, the employee resource groups are there for a reason. So they really utilize their employee resource groups to test messaging because they have a really strong outreach arm in terms of reaching their audience. So that would be one that comes to mind. In terms of the brands, I would say Ford Motors does a really good job both on its advertising, where you're going to see commercials on TV that are both I see the visuals, but you also see a little bit of the Spanglish thrown in there, but they're also very intentional about who they engage with in the community. That's really important for corporations and for the government agencies. I think that's why they turn to us for that, is we have such a deep bench of what you say is who's your social impact, who's your collateral, right? Social collateral. That means who are your contacts in the community. Ford and the team that actually was handling their Latino marketing initiatives in LA really was plugged into the various Latino organizations, and they knew when they needed to be present. So again, when a consumer sees that brand and supporting initiatives that are close to their hearts as a consumer, they're more likely to become a brand ambassador and buy your product. So those are the ones that stick out to me as one of the blues. I didn't say which one of the two blue healthcare insurance companies, and then Ford.
And I have two examples from my current clients. One is when they were first entering the Asian American market. They invested a lot in market research, focus group studies to really understand their target audience before developing the strategy. And then since then, every year they're conducting focus group research study to, monitor any changes with their target audience, which is a great example. And another client is a decades back, but they're Time Warner Cable, now Spectrum Internet. And what they did is when they were launching into the Asian American market, of course, we did the cultural sensitivity training with the executive management team, but we did it at the really frontline sales teams where they would be the primary people interacting with the customers. And I thought that was like an excellent effort that the brand did.
Right.
Yeah, because it starts, I love it because they start with the people that are directly interacting with the consumers, right?
Yeah.
One of the most fun things I think that we might all agree on is when you're in the research phase especially with government agencies, it's so fun to be able to start with the internal and external stakeholders and really figuring out who they are, who they want to reach, and the best way to reach them. Because that strategy, right, that focus group or that research allows us to build a strategy that's going to be effective. Because if we just assume, the city of Los Angeles, we know who the consumers are, we know what they need, because we've been doing it for so long, it's still not right. It's still not right. There's those subtleties and things we will miss. And that's why spending the money for government and corporations, spending the money on the research is a critical thing that will allow you not to waste money when you're doing a media spend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And spend it strategically. So.
Yes. Yeah.
And I believe, Dana, you have an example of a brand who's got multicultural wrong?
Oh, no, that's right. I gave that Kmart. That's exactly what I said.
That's the Kmart. Okay,
Yes,
so I did it earlier.
I don't want to talk about the bad ones anymore. There's so many that are doing it well.
I have something
other
that
people can learn from it. No.
to dovetail after what Dana said about working with government. We're also, sometimes it's not that easy when we're coming from our space to change some of the stereotypes that some of our government agency clients might have. We're working with one agency here in LA County and supporting them on external facing, whether it be social media or collateral. And when we're looking at imagery, sometimes you're only able to choose one image, as we know, what's going to be most reflective and embracing most of the audiences that they want to reach. And they were insisting that we needed that person doesn't look Latino enough. That doesn't look Latino enough. Well, you know what? If you go that route, then you're going to isolate others. I was born with blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm 100% Latina. They wanted it, insisting on having somebody wearing a straw hat because in their eyes, that's what Latino is supposed to be.
Stereotype.
That might isolate the rest of people that might not look like that. So that's really, educating our client that might be what you might think represents, but in reality, that might turn off a larger segment of that audience that we want to reach, that we need to reach.
Because of the subsets. The subsets are there, and it isn't just one, and that's why we're breaking down our advertising into the subsets as well.
Yeah. So what are some actions companies can take to make sure that they're connecting with the different multicultural audiences then?
Hire us.
Okay, in addition to hiring.
It's definitely not a pitch session for us and our businesses, but it's fun to be able to talk about it with other business owners that are in the same spaces that,
Right? Yeah. I think because we see the same void,
right.
And then that that communication, that delivery can just be elevated. And also it brings more brand awareness, and the upcoming generation, they care about this stuff.
They do.
So if they want the market share, the brands want the market share, it's important that they start paying more attention too.
100%.
So I would say, taking a look at the audits that we talked about when we had our conversation yesterday, and that can come either before you bring on a multicultural agency or even a freelancer, is, maybe utilize, again, I refer to the employee resource groups where they're already there. They're your focus group before you start spending on the research, and allow them to be honest, right? And not feel threatened and really feel like you value their input. And that's one way to start in terms of what we're doing right. Maybe look at some companies that others have said they're doing it right, and maybe look at how do we compare to that. And then even ask some of whoever your audience is, that you might not know what they're going to say, but you've got to be willing to accept the unknown of, what they say, they think I'm doing this terribly. But really ask people, what do you think when you hear about our brand or when you see our material out there? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Those are just a couple of points. But yeah, like Dana says, bring on somebody like Amanda, Sandra, Dana, or myself to help support your teams.
Well, and I think too, there's so much that you can read. There's just so much research out there to find out what, city of Los Angeles, Hispanics in the city of Los Angeles, in this district, what's going on there, to really find out. I mean, that's what we all do, right? We're getting our finger on the pulse of what's happening in our cities or counties or states, and that just so that we know, because as you said beautifully, Angelica, it's different in every state. That's what you said, Sandra. I know you're working in Washington or something, you said earlier, and or New York, I think, and it's different.
Yeah. And I love what Angelica said about, leveraging ERG, because it's already an internal group. So you're not starting a fresh group, but also I'm sure they feel empowered and feel appreciated because okay, you want to learn more about my culture? Let me tell you. Or what do you think? So I think that's actually very exciting if your brand, your corporate come to you and say, hey, what's your thought on this?
We had a beautiful gal, Jessica Navas, working for us, and she was Hispanic, first generation, and we were going to advertise, doing a campaign on free immigration services by the Los Angeles Public Library. And Jessica, we knew that we weren't going to be, in our research, we weren't going to be advertising to the kids and the parents in the same language. So the demo for older, right, we could advertise in Spanish, show older people. And then the younger demo, we saw that they would, and Jessica confirmed this. It was so great because she's like, yeah, I would look at something in English, talking about how my parents could get, free citizenship, right? Or through a program. She said, but I would not read it in Spanish. She was, but I will go home and I will tell my parents in Spanish what I saw. So it was just as important to advertise to the younger as the older demo. So really understanding those nuances, she would not have even paid attention in Spanish. So I think those kinds of things we've all experienced.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. And with multicultural marketing, there's so many layers. And one of the layers is events, right? So how can marketing leaders tap into events or brand activations and the diverse pool of influencers who really help connect their brands to a more diverse audience and really help amplify and impact their multicultural marketing strategy? And I would like to start with Sandra.
Yeah. I mean, before COVID, we had all of our clients wanted to go out to events and do brand activations. But during COVID, of course, we couldn't do much. But I really believe that, events and brand activation is a great way to engage with the multicultural audience if done right, if you make the right cultural and language connections at the event. And, if you do it right, you really leave long-lasting brand impression at events. And, based on research studies, we've just done one for our client and, compared to mass media advertising and all different types of advertising, the event, being there with the brand, experiencing the brand, brought in the highest brand recall. So it's really a great way to interact with your target audience and get instant feedback.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot in the market. I mean, there's so many statistics that we see where, for events, if you do events, it has like a direct 20 to 30% more impact in sales, right? Events like turn people into champions. I love that, or advocates, and that's what you want.
Mhm.
You know,
Brand ambassadors. Yeah.
yeah. I'm in this business, but I also been transformed many times myself. I turned to advocates for certain brand because I experienced it at an event too. How about you, Angelica or Dana?
Well, I think that's the beauty when we look at the makeup, even in this room, this chat room, is that while we all might do events as part of what we do in our arsenal of services, but then we know when it's best to collaborate with a partner, whether it be like a Sandra or Amanda, a larger scale. So what we tend to be involved with most, and we just actually had our first, and it was so great to be back out there in the community. We have a contract right now with the state of California, and we're working in the community of Linwood, along the Southeast corridor. We know that area very well. My team is from that community, but the fact that you're with the community and they were so receptive to get information. And then when you ask them if they want to be part of this whole campaign to help educate others, for us, those are the types of, so the more the micro, anything larger, I would turn to like a Sandra and Amanda, say, hey, you know what? I see the opportunity for something larger, an event. But really the past 3 years, our events have all been virtual. And we were able to keep the outreach and education with our partners, the city of Los Angeles and the county. But that was really wonderful to see the community in person and to see what they were willing to do. And they were open to have more workshops, interactive opportunities for their families. So I highly encourage the brands and the government sector to do more of that as we're going back to our new norm, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Amanda, because you are, I mean, you know, I've known you for a while, and when you've shown me the things that you have done all around the world, I look and I'm like, wow, she's like a lot. She's like, she and her company are all that. So I would love to hear like some things from you. Honestly, I'm sorry to flip the table, but just like really, because you are the queen of events, you guys really knock it out of the park and are unique and always present something that is so classy. And so what are you seeing in that? I mean, that's a great question for you.
Thank you. Well, you know, when it comes to especially multicultural, we're actually seeing more brands come to us and ask for DEI and multicultural events, right? They wanted, so then there's certain events we're actually just doing for the African American group or Latinx group or like the Asian group, or to celebrate a specific, like for example, Hispanic Heritage Month. Right. And they really have initiative that really try to drive that DEI, but they also add like belonging. So it's not just DEI, but they really want to make sure people belong.
Yes.
I think that's also a perception. A lot of people that are not necessarily like Asian or Hispanic, they'll say, well, how about me? Does then DEI exclude me? And I say, no, that doesn't exclude you. It just want to make more people feel inclusive. Right. So a lot of brands also add belonging, which I love. But you know, we're seeing a lot in not only external events, but also internal events. For external, a lot of these events are focused on like their creators or their influencers, making sure and allowing an event space for them to meet each other, connect with each other. And it's really amazing because it's actually really quite magical where all these influencers are coming together, right? Especially after the pandemic, and be like, oh my God, you're Dana. Like we've been talking. I follow you on TikTok. You follow me on TikTok, or I don't know if you follow me on TikTok, but now they talk and they talk about their content, and then they're now cross promoting or even collaborating. That's so powerful. And they're like, oh, I thought I was the only one in my space. So now they feel like they belong, right? And we're doing that across the board and under different cultures. And I think that's why I love events. I think it's not just about, okay, yes, we do have pretty flowers and the event space is amazing, but ultimately it's about that human connection.
Yeah.
You know, we always say it's not about the event, it's about the experience. We want everybody to walk away with that human connection.
Right. So true. And that's exactly what we've all been saying about marketing, right? And that making that connections. Sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's a flyer, sometimes it's an ad, or you know, that's so beautiful, Amanda. I love the way that you said that.
Thank you. Yeah. And people are doing this internal and externally. So I'm actually like so happy to see that, because like I myself, I'm effective if I see a brand in my community. I would say, okay, this is a brand that supports my community. So in turn, I will support this brand. Right. By purchasing for them or using the service. Right, Sandra?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
When you see the, when I go into Trader Joe's and see a woman-owned or CVS or woman-owned product with the label on it, I want to support them. Like, I can't tell you, like, I will always go back and I will try to buy that product because that's where I go, oh, they're progressive Trader Joe's, CVS. They're going, yeah, this is important to us. And they're actually showing it because they're buying from somebody. They're buying from somebody to get it on the shelf. Yeah.
Yes. Dana, I did the same thing. I was in Home Goods not too long ago, and literally I was just buying like towels, right? So there's not really I don't have a specific one I need, but literally on the label it say woman owned. So I'm like, I'm grabbing this one.
Yes.
And I touch it, make sure it's soft and it's nice. And so
Right.
they're all soft, right?
Yeah,
but I'm like, women owned, definitely this one. You know,
it's so
and
exciting.
Like, it appeals to me as a consumer, right? I don't have a brand loyalty for towels, so
Now you do. Awesome.
I do, and then I just buy 8 of them, you know. So it's like, there you go.
Exactly. And there were studies done in the past where they found that people would be willing. Say Dana and I were selling the same product. So they were selling products and not services. And Dana happened to really be invested in her community, and I wasn't. And Dana charged more for her car than I did. They would buy from the person, even though their car might be more expensive than my car, because they knew that she was in the community. That's especially true for our Black and our Latino community.
Yes,
right. And the younger generation, the millennials, and they're very much about what are you doing, company, in the community, and that's how they're going to decide too if they want to work for you or not. What are you doing? Do I want to be part of that company? And how they're acting in the community. Are they dishonest when it comes to diversity?
Right.
That's true. And then my team will put a link in the chat of a case study we did for a TikTok Diverse Creator Community National Tour. So if you guys want to check it out, just go ahead and go there. But it's so true. I actually had a friend who works for a huge company, and she said, but they're not DI friendly. And she's like, but I love the company. I still love it. And she's been there 9 years. She's like, should I stay or should I go? And I was like, but you love it, right? Like, this DI thing is that big a deal? She said, yes. So that really impacted her influence. And luckily, the company started doing things, rolling out programs. So that's why she's still there.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. We're going to transition now into Q&A, but you guys this is so good, but I know we have so many questions in Q&A. So I just want to like get to there to help it. All right, first question from Wendy. For all the speaker, can you address the accessibility issue? Access is so important for events and engagement. Who wants to go? Just feel free to,
And that's something, that isn't addressed enough when you hear about the word diversity. We forget about the age factor, right? Not only that, but in terms of challenges that people might have. Is this accessible by wheelchair? If I'm going to be coming in with a walker, websites, right? Maybe I need to make sure that my website, that's key. The website is accessible. One agency, the state's doing a wonderful job. When we create any of our content for them, we need to run it through a test so we can make sure that people can see that the coloring is okay, the fonts. Yes. I think more needs to be done in that space. There's not enough. You're hearing more about website accessibility, but the rest, I think it's really silent. There needs to be more as we are becoming an older population that we need to embrace and accept and include as well if we really are embracing diversity and inclusion.
I agree with you about the accessibility, and that's certainly on the website, right? And we can get those easy, simple plugins that'll give people the advantage to see something or hear something differently. And we've done something for the previous mayor's office and around the census, and people were not responding, and certain cultures were not responding to the census, and it was getting to the end, and we thought, what was the issue? Well, it ended up being that Hispanics and English-speaking people would go to the census website to fill out documentation, and then people with any other language, Tagalog, any other language, Chinese, they would get to the website and be like, so ads were being done in language, but then they get to go do and it was leading to, so, what do? We have the language changer, the Google API put on there to be able to change the language. I mean, that's accessibility too, and that's also successful, but those kinds of things, that is, us again, looking at the whole broad picture of accessibility physically and,
Yeah, I agree. Language accessibility is a huge issue for at city level and state level, not being able to reach all the audiences.
Yeah, I mean, Dana and I were just at WeBank in Nashville for the conference, and they actually have a sign language person for the major conference. And I thought that was really great that they integrated that. You know, in a lot of other events, they'll have like closed caption or like translating. There's like these awesome app now. We went to another event. You literally could scan the QR code, and you could just use your phone. It's like an app. You scan it, but then you could get live translation. So it could be any language. And that was awesome. And then since I know Chinese, I put Chinese, and I want to listen to see if and it actually was, I would say 95% accurate, which I was really surprised because it was just happening so fast, versus before we had to get translators. They're like in a booth and they're like translating. And then there's like people like sitting in the back with their phones, right? Yeah, super old school. But now with technology, I think also leverage technology. It is out there. So feel free.
That's fantastic, Amanda. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. With the economy as where it is right now, are you guys seeing less emphasis on multicultural efforts and DEI?
Actually,
in the government space. Oh, go ahead, Sandra, please.
Oh, I know with the corporate private brands, it's been a hot keyword for them to implement multicultural and DEI, especially, what happened in recent years with Black Lives Matter, Asian hate, So I see more effort by brands, but like what we just talked about, a lot of corporate, when Asian hate happened, a lot of brands made a public pledge that they will invest in Asian American community and put out these expensive ads on New York Times, Wall Street Journal. And actually, I'm part of Asian American Advertising Federation, where we're a professional Asian American advertising association. And we're actually tracking if they've really invested in the Asian American market, or it was just a show like what we previously just talked about.
I love that. You're really actually tracking to see if they walk the talk, right?
I think in the government space, it hasn't impacted. They're actually doing much more of it. So that you look at every RFP, and RFP, for those that aren't familiar, is information they put out for contracts that are available to businesses such as Dana's and mine and all of us here. And they might call it out. So if they have a region, like say it's the LA County region, prefer to have a team that are bilingual, that are Spanish speakers, because you're going to be out in the community as well as creating content. So they know that it's important to get much of the information is public service. So you need to make sure that it gets into the right hands. So I think on the government sector, that's a given, that they want to make sure that information gets out into the communities that they are in.
And I have a theory. I don't think once you start advertising multicultural efforts, I don't think you can go back. You can spend less, but you can't kind of undo the thing you just started that is so progressive. Because I mean, in our experience, I don't know about you ladies, but like it works. It works. Advertising, it works. There is a return on investment. And I think too, about the less emphasis on multicultural or media spend or whatever. If there's $500,000 for a media spend, you're not spending any more to segment off 150 for Hispanic and African American and Asian. It's still $500,000. But we always talk about, you're not spending money in the ocean, throwing the money in the ocean. You're actually going in the lake where the fish are, right? Because you're segmenting, right?
Yes.
You're not just spending it wildly into a sea of hope,
Yeah. I mean, you're diversifying your customer base.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. Awesome. Let's see the next question. What are the opportunities for those marketers who implemented multicultural marketing strategies?
For themselves?
What are the opportunities for those marketers who implemented? Yes, I would say for a brand, what are opportunities for them when they do implement multicultural marketing strategies?
To capture a larger share of the market, to have those ambassadors that are you're going to connect to people at the heart and soul. That's what we always talk about. We refer to that as connecting to the heart and soul and also passion branding, right? So it's an extension. It develops legs. Your marketing campaign develops legs because they're now talking about your brand. They're regurgitating an experience. They're sharing about an experience that they had at one of Amanda's events. So that's the upside to that you build a strong army of ambassador advocates out there.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if he's saying something about what are the opportunities for those marketers, so that maybe he has a company, Jose, that he has multicultural marketing strategies. What is the opportunities for him to get work is what I might think too, right? Is that maybe a way to go? And I think
it's up for interpretation.
Yes, I love it, Jose. We have one more question on this. All right. But yeah,
so maybe somebody who's not familiar, who isn't, we encourage them, if there are small business owners that are not certified, we're all certified in this space, really go after that. Doesn't guarantee you a contract, but if you're a woman, LGBT, disabled veteran, Asian, please look into that if you're not certified, and find an organization to help you go through that process. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Advantage.
All right. Next question. Let's see. For those who haven't started yet, what are the next steps? That's a great one.
Actually, I would like to jump in for this one.
Yes, Sandra.
Yeah, so it's great if you're thinking about multicultural marketing, but I really emphasize on, of course, you're going to work with a consultant or agency as one of us, and we'll be providing, your target cultural insights and target insights. But I really recommend to start with the research, just, little investment to do focus groups to understand the target audience and really identifying the ones that has the potential to be your customer. Right. So really invest in the market research first. I mean, that's an investment to make sure that you're making the right investment in the right place.
You're so right, Sandra, because if the Hispanic, whatever, for some reason, Hispanic women are not your target market, you don't want to spend money there, right? So finding out who are your people, who are your people, and then, because it is an investment, but yeah, such easy to find research. I think that's such a great point.
That's a great one. Okay, and I have one that I'm seeing that's coming in. That's really good. What is the first thing to do if we want to make the campaign multicultural?
I would say go back to the research and do the focus group. Because you cannot make your general market campaign into a multicultural campaign. It has to be customized and tailored per target audience.
Right, and that's knowing your customers.
Yeah.
Because you can't even say, okay, I'm going to go after the Hispanic market. So what Hispanic market? Immigrant community, first generation, second generation, what age group? There's so many things that you want to really go in there and dive into. Do I want to reach the Asian community? Well, there's differences there. We've got Korean, Chinese. You can speak to that, Amanda and Sarah. Who specifically, maybe you don't want to be, if you haven't done multicultural before, let's take baby steps. Take a look at that as they refer to the low-hanging fruit. What can you do? But it's going to go back to our research on where are you at? Who are you trying to reach? And what do they think about you? Maybe they already have some feelings of your brand.
And don't spend a penny. Don't spend a penny on advertising, doing a Facebook ad or an anything ad until you know who your market is, because that is guaranteed to be wasted money.
I love that what you share, because a lot of people are like, well, let me just try it, right? But they don't really know what they're going after.
It doesn't work. Then Facebook doesn't work, or TikTok doesn't work, or whatever doesn't work. We all hear that as marketers, it doesn't work. Yeah, well,
we tried it, right? It didn't work.
It didn't work. Okay.
But that's setting themselves up for failure, right? Because they tried it. Oh, it didn't work. Nobody, engaged with us, or it did not create more sales. But that's not, you did not start doing it correctly in the first place. So I love that. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. This is a great panel. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in, and thank you to our incredible panel, Dana, Sandra, Angelica. You guys are just such thought leaders, and thank you for carving out time to be with us today. We had a wonderful time talking about multicultural. You could see, like, all of us are just trying to hold on to our seat because we're so excited. A few times I saw the speakers leaning in, so I can tell they're super engaged and just so passionate about multicultural, about DEI. And we hope you're leaving with plenty of insights about multicultural marketing and how you can incorporate it into your business, right? Whether big, small, medium, government, or non-government. But really, at the end of the day, we just want to encourage you to get started. If you haven't get started or start thinking about it, how you can weave that in. So thank you, everybody, and really appreciate you guys tuning in.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Amanda.
including us.
Thank you.